Welcome back, my lovelies. How's life in the land of stargazing? Hope you're ready to take on another week with me. And this week we've got some pretty interesting comings and goings. So we're sort of setting the scene up for the rest of the month and into March for lots of interaction with the nodes. We've already spoken at length, I think, about Neptune squaring the nodes, but this focus is all on our inner planets and our luminaries. So the Sun all the way through to Mars. And what we can expect to see, or feel rather, is this mix of flow and ease. And then that will then turn into a kind of squirmy pressure. And if we look at it, it's all kind of dynamics set up to help us evolve. So you can expect your emotions or your thoughts to bounce all over the place. And this is possibly why you're maybe feeling, I don't know, brain dead 1 second, the genius spark the next, confidence through to crippling shyness, real kinds of highs and lows with what's going on. And I want you to imagine yourself as a big ball of dough that's going to be baked into a beautiful loaf of bread. It needs a lot of kneading, doesn't it? It gets pulled and it gets stretched, it gets applied until it's perfect consistency, ready to go in the oven. And I kind of see that happening with us right now with what's happening. So on top of all of that, we will also see the Sun change signs this week, and we will also see our first quarter moon. So let's get cracking and dive into it all. So on the 15th, we can see Venus trine the North Node, Venus in Aquarius and the North Node in Gemini respectively. And I think this trine is going to be really beneficial, particularly for those perhaps who are stuck in a rut or beholden to certain relationships, partnerships or ties, which have now outgrown their purpose. So our vibrational beings, they're kind of caught up in the flow of group-led and humanitarian attraction at the moment. That's where we want to be, that's where we're being led. So it's going to be pretty obvious to our souls where we're feeling tied up, hemmed in, or at the behest of other people and situations and places that we just don't want to interact with anymore. And of course, it can take a while for us to act on this information. And actually, trines themselves aren't really renowned for that feeling of the need to act. This will probably come later when Venus goes on to square the nodes next month. So at the moment, the focus is just on, I guess, allowing that awareness to flood into your consciousness and bring up these unwanted ties to let you see them, see where they are, see where you no longer wish to be. And it's not until we're aware of things, of course, that we can actually do anything about them. So interesting dynamics being brought into our field of vision, auspicious energy for removing that emotional baggage and equally attracting new situations which place you where you do need to be. And it could well be an out with the old and an in with the new. Interestingly, on the 15th as well, we'll see Black Moon Lilith station retrograde. And she's very, very close to Mars at the moment. So Mars, of course, our planet of personal action, he's wrapped up in Taurus. He wants to be embodied. He's relating to himself. He's staying strong in his own personal experience. But we've also got the mistress of shadow hugging him almost. So what can we expect from that? Well, as she's about to go retrograde in Taurus, we can expect to be looking at our shadow. We'll be looking our shadow square in the eye. And probably everybody else's to boot. I mean, what fun, right? So you can expect to see the good, the bad, and certainly the ugly. And remember, it hasn't just appeared from nowhere. It might feel that way, but it hasn't just one day arrived just like that. It's simply that the dynamics are set for you to be able to see what's been in front of your eyes for so long. And that's good, because we can acknowledge it and we can look towards healing whatever is dished up onto our own personal plate. And the clue here really is with Mars on your own personal plate. There's only so much you can affect in the world, but if you start with yourself, you're going to make a much bigger impact. We've also got white moon Selene, the yin to the black moon Lilith Yang. She's hanging out close to the south node in Sagittarius. And if you remember back last year, that's what we talked about, was that collective south point. It's where we've come from. And when we move towards the north, we always need to be sure that we keep what's worth keeping. And she's pulling our minds back. White moon Selene in Sagittarius is certainly saying to me that we can pull on her support in the area of truth and discernment, the area of embodied intuition. Doesn't that go well with our Taurus embodiment in Mars? The foundations which have held true to you thus far, that have supported you thus far, will continue to play a supporting role when you see what plays out centre stage with Black Moon Lilith. So on the 17th, we have the very first of our Saturn square Uranus. And we can expect 2 more of these, one in June and one in December, I think, off the top of my head. And I won't lie, this kind of feels a bit crunchy to me, and may perhaps recall into our minds or have brought back into our focus some of the distasteful events we've seen and faced as a collective over the last 12 months and beyond, actually. Typical of Saturn to kind of crash the party, right? He's kind of putting me in mind of that naggy parent who turns up demanding the lights go out and everybody goes home. I am still undecided as to how I think this is going to play out, but it feels wrangling. The fact it has to happen 3 times, 3rd time's the charm. There's a lot to come out in the wash with this aspect. So just keep an eye and see what you are. See what you see. On the one hand, then, we have Uranus, the left field freedom fighter, in our survival instinct arena, aka Taurus, squaring off against Saturn in Aquarius, which could well be the land of technocracy, virtue signalling, shaming, and free speech is okay as long as we approve kind of ethos. The beauty of astrology, of course, is that it always allows for free will. And really, this whole dynamic will not be truly decided until December. I think that it will make you assess which side you feel you want to fall on or where you stand in the middle. And this could flip-flop over the course of 21. For me, certainly Uranus in Taurus very much feels like we the people. And we also have the moon entering Taurus at this time too, and it will conjunct Uranus on this day. So I think a lot of us will be personally identifying in this camp, whether we would choose to normally or not. We may just feel that pull, our emotions pull in this direction. So it might be good to check in to see where Uranus and Saturn are in your own chart, particularly in relation to this square. It'll give you some more clarity on how this will work out for you. And we also really feel the build up to the Mars-Venus square, which is exact during the first quarter moon, which we'll come on to shortly. Difficult to say how best to use this generally. I know, I'm being a bit of a crap astrologer today, aren't I? But these 2 wild horses are difficult to bring together. I guess we could use this square to make our own unique contribution to society, to see where we bring the unique and quirky individual to others. It's a dilemma because we can't control it, aka Saturn, and rebelling against it, aka Uranus, isn't really the go-to either. So again, go with the flow, be that observer, see how it rides out. I think I said on Instagram that this aspect speaks volumes to transpersonal events. So again, keep tabs on whatever you trust as a media source. The 18th of the month kind of knows that we need a break from the battle. It's kind of feeling sorry for us a bit. And we see the sun ingress into Pisces here. Hooray! This is the start of the trickle through. So if you recall back at the start of the year, we had that flow from restrictive Capricorn into rebellious Aquarius. Well, rebel Aquarius, the breaker of chains, moves on to Pisces, the lover of humanity. We all need this. I need this. We have been so caught up in power play, restriction, constriction, whatever other action you want to add, that I just want to see love your fellow human vibe running through us all right now. Next month we see a fair few squares, but that's okay. And certainly with the nodes, this speaks volumes to people seeing where our focus has maybe led us down a garden path and adjusting ourselves, almost like that kind of course correction. But I, for one, feel as though a lot of us have been pitted against each other for various reasons, mostly linked to the 2nd and 10th houses. But I always say, and I always ask, who does it really serve to see us all divided and distracted? It doesn't serve us, that's for sure. So I'm hopeful we can re-establish that love of our fellow human. Although yes, this will be a process. And no, this does not mean betraying your own personal values and ethos, but an appreciation that we are stronger together. And Mercury remains retrograde at this point. Remember, we discussed how valuable this transit is for all of our mental health, giving us that elevated stance to see beyond our own four walls. Mars, our personal planet of action, is at the master degree of 22 today as well, which really lends us all some divine assistance to a headstrong and heated plan of action. So I quite like this, where we're seeing a turn of events, aren't we? We're kind of seeing ourselves steering more towards more accepting waters as the rebel hands over to the peacemaker. And lastly, guys, the main headlines for this week. On the 19th, we get our first quarter moon at 1 degree Gemini. So we have a lot of new and initiating mutable energy here between the sun and the moon square. And that's bloody good, I think. For me, I see this as a fresh burst of adaptability and flexibility, which is going to come in handy, as you'll see in a minute. So typically under the first quarter moon, if we're looking to grow or manifest along the lunar cycle, the synodic cycle, we see the first outward signs of the inner desire or our inner vibration reflected back at us. And this is really useful because when we see what's reflected on the outside, we can then adjust if we don't like it, or we can go with the flow depending on our reaction to what we see. And usually, given that we have a square between the sun and the moon, it can cause tension or at least enough friction to shift our butts into gear. The typical tension we would feel here is kind of heightened by Venus squaring Mars exact today. And of course, we have Black Moon Lilith retrograde slowly making her way back down to Uranus. So what will all of this bring? Well, as our inner or personal planets, we can expect to feel this near and far. It can play out in our relationships, with Mars being the planet of who we fight with and equally who we fight for, to quote the golden girl of astrology herself, Maxine Taylor. Being in stressful alignment to Venus, the ruler of all of our relationships. And once again, observe the situation. It's always better to respond than to react, especially when Mars is being a bit pissy. You might want a controlled outlet for the physical tension in your Mars. And given that he's aspecting Venus, I'm going to leave how you do that totally up to your own discretion. But certainly with a new moon in Gemini, we can expect to feel really comfortable in our curiosity. So we can be looking at different ways of doing things, exploring the new, having these deep conversations with people. Given the fact that the sun is in Pisces, he will kind of orientate all of our thoughts, our emotions, the way we communicate with the Gemini moon over towards that beautiful Piscean ideal of that love of man. So it's quite interesting to see that contrast between the Venus-Mars square and the Sun-Moon square that we've got going on. And when we put them all together in the melting pot, I think this situation is pretty ripe for us all to kind of come together, really, even more so than we did over Valentine's. If you remember, we talked of this energy of attracting your tribe, and this is a lovely continuation of that piece. We'll be able to see if we are aiming ourselves in the right way. Have we found our tribe? Are we engaging with them the right way? Do we need to adjust that? Do we need to perhaps go and find a different way to interact, a different group of people to interact with? That's what these dynamics are certainly saying to me over the new moon. So that's all for this week, guys. Hopefully that helped. Any questions, anything you want me to address in the next video, just get in touch. I'm honestly happy to talk about whatever you want me to. So take care, and I send you big love, and we'll speak next week. Take care. Bye.